Sebastian Vettel has never been afraid to voice his opinion. Known for his outspoken nature and thoughtful reflections, he has often challenged the direction of Formula One. Recently, he surprised fans and critics alike by openly supporting a controversial rule change that has split opinion across the paddock. In a sport where tradition and innovation constantly clash, Vettel's stance adds significant weight to the discussion. His 4 world championships and long tenure in the sport give him authority that cannot be ignored. For years, Vettel was viewed as one of the strongest advocates for driver fairness and purist racing values, so his approval of this particular regulation marks an unexpected turn. The debate centers not just on sporting fairness, but also on the broader identity of Formula One itself. As Vettel explained his reasoning, it became clear that his perspective was not driven by nostalgia or emotion, but by a carefully considered evaluation of the sport's future. His comments have reignited the ongoing dispute over what F1 should truly represent. The regulation Vettel supports revolves around the growing influence of standardized components in Formula One cars. Traditionally, teams developed nearly every part independently, fueling technical rivalry and innovation. However, in recent years, governing bodies have introduced measures to limit cost escalation and reduce performance gaps between teams. The controversial rule at the center of debate requires greater reliance on standardized parts, curbing expensive development wars. Critics argue it diminishes Formula One's spirit as the pinnacle of engineering innovation. Supporters, however, claim it levels the playing field, creating closer racing and fairer competition. Vettel's backing of this rule comes as a surprise, because he built much of his success during an era of free technical development when Red Bull's dominance relied heavily on Adrian Newey's engineering brilliance. Yet, Vettel sees value in a change that many of his contemporaries have resisted. His support suggests a shift in thinking from protecting past traditions toward embracing a more sustainable and competitive model for the sport's future. When explaining his support, Vettel pointed to the core issues of cost, fairness, and accessibility. Formula One has long faced criticism for being too expensive, with smaller teams struggling to compete against giants like Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull. By mandating standardized components, Vettel believes the sport can reduce financial inequality and allow a broader range of teams to be competitive. For him, racing should always come down to driver skill rather than sheer financial power. Vettel also emphasized sustainability, noting that escalating budgets contradict the sport's push for greener and more responsible operations. His reasoning shows an evolution in his outlook since retirement, reflecting his growing focus on environmental and social issues. To Vettel, the integrity of the sport lies in making it competitive, fair, and viable for the next generation. His stance frames the rule not as an erosion of Formula One's tradition, but as a necessary adaptation to secure its survival in a rapidly changing world. Formula One has always been a battlefield of innovation, with iconic moments defined by groundbreaking engineering. From turbocharged engines in the 1980s to double diffusers and hybrid power units in the modern era, technical freedom shaped much of the sport's identity. However, these innovations came at a cost: massive budgets and widening gaps between teams. The introduction of standardized parts is not entirely new. The FIA has, over the years, mandated standard electronics, fuel systems, and other components to control costs. Each time, the move was met with resistance from traditionalists who feared Formula One would lose its engineering edge. Yet history has shown that the essence of racing remains intact despite these changes. Vettel's position places him on the side of evolution rather than preservation. By supporting the rule, he acknowledges that while technical creativity is vital, unchecked spending risks alienating fans and pushing smaller teams out. For Vettel, the long-term health of the sport outweighs nostalgia. Unsurprisingly, Vettel's support has sparked debate. Some current drivers and team principals share his perspective, welcoming a shift that reduces inequality. Smaller teams such as Williams and Haas stand to benefit the most, as their limited budgets often restrict performance gains. For them, standardized parts could be a lifeline, enabling consistent competition with wealthier rivals. On the other hand, powerhouse teams like Ferrari and Mercedes have expressed skepticism, arguing that Formula One's DNA lies in engineering freedom. They fear that limiting innovation undermines the sport's prestige. Engineers and designers, many of whom take pride in pushing technical boundaries, have also voiced concerns about losing their creative edge. Vettel's stance complicates the conversation because of his credibility as a four-time champion. His opinion adds legitimacy to a regulation that otherwise might have been dismissed as cost-cutting. Whether fans or insiders agree with him or not, his support ensures the debate cannot be ignored. Fan reaction has been equally divided. Traditional supporters of Formula One worry that increasing standardization will make the cars feel less unique. For decades, part of the allure of the sport has been the technical ingenuity displayed by each team, leading to distinctive designs and rivalries. Many fear that too many restrictions could turn Formula One into a spec series, blurring its identity. On the other side, a growing segment F fans welcomes the rule as a pathway to closer, more unpredictable racing. These supporters argue that fewer technical disparities will ensure drivers, not machinery, determine outcomes. Vettel's comments resonate particularly with this group, who see him as a champion of fairness and accessibility. His willingness to endorse the regulation shows that even those who thrived under the old system recognize the need for balance. In the end, the fan debate mirrors the broader question facing the sport: tradition versus transformation. If fully implemented, the controversial rule could alter the balance of power within Formula One. Smaller teams would likely benefit first, as the cost gap narrows. This would create new opportunities for driver talent to shine through rather than being overshadowed by financial disparities. Larger teams, however, would need to adapt. Their advantage in resources and advanced facilities could diminish, forcing them to rely more heavily on strategy, execution, and driver skill. This shift might frustrate engineers accustomed to exploring the limits of technical freedom, but it could also produce a more compelling championship battle. Vettel views this potential redistribution of competitiveness as a positive step. His belief is that when more teams have a chance to fight for podiums and victories, the sport as a whole becomes stronger. The regulation's long-term impact will depend on how it is managed, but its potential to reshape team dynamics is undeniable. Beyond the racetrack, the rule addresses deeper economic concerns in Formula One. For decades, spiraling budgets have made participation nearly impossible for new teams, while existing outfits often struggle to stay afloat. The cost cap introduced in 2021 was a first step, but it has not fully solved disparities. By standardizing certain parts, expenses could fall further, ensuring more sustainable operations for all teams. Vettel's endorsement highlights how financial sustainability is now central to the sport's survival. Without meaningful reforms, Formula One risks consolidating into a battle between a few wealthy manufacturers, reducing diversity and interest. Standardization may not be glamorous, but it offers stability. It also aligns with broader trends in global sports, where financial fairness is prioritized to maintain competitiveness. For Vettel, the economic reality of Formula One cannot be ignored. Supporting this rule is less about radical change and more about ensuring the sport's financial foundation remains strong. Vettel's reasoning also ties into his wider concerns about sustainability. Since retiring, he has spoken frequently about environmental issues and the need for sport to act responsibly. Formula One, with its enormous budgets and carbon footprint, faces constant scrutiny. Standardization helps by reducing wasteful parallel development, focusing resources on efficiency rather than excess. It also allows smaller teams to invest more in sustainable initiatives rather than just survival. Vettel's perspective reflects his belief that Formula One must align with global trends of responsibility and resource management. Supporting the rule is consistent with his advocacy for long-term thinking. He envisions a championship that maintains excitement but also acknowledges its duty to evolve responsibly. For Vettel, embracing change is not a betrayal of Formula One's identity, but a necessary step toward ensuring the sport's relevance in a world increasingly concerned with sustainability, fairness, and economic balance. Sebastian Vettel's endorsement of a controversial Formula One rule change highlights both the complexity and necessity of adaptation in modern motorsport. His perspective carries weight not only because of his championship pedigree, but also because of his credibility as a thoughtful voice beyond racing. By supporting greater standardization, Vettel challenges conventional thinking, urging the sport to prioritize fairness, sustainability, and economic stability over unchecked engineering freedom. The debate remains unresolved, but Vettel's stance ensures the conversation is more balanced. His comments reveal that Formula One is at a crossroads, caught between tradition and transformation. Whichever path the sport ultimately chooses, Vettel's words underscore the importance of making decisions that safeguard its long-term health. His position is less about the past and more about preparing Formula One for an uncertain future. In the eyes of many, this makes his support not just surprising, but profoundly significant for the direction the sport may take.